Well, my name is Neil Davies. Myself and my business partner, Paul Bartlett, started Watertrain back in 2007, and we have built a very solid market share in the mainly English water utility sector. So we are one of only 3 players in our marketplace, and we probably have about 85% of the apprenticeship market in England in the water utility sector. My business partner really built a place in Spain. It sounds very grand, not a very big place in Spain, but decided to split 50% of his time over there and over here, struggling with his back in recent years. And he's been the guy touring the country, visiting the clients. So that was basically wearing him down. So we looked at marketing the business just before COVID. Long story short, last March, April time, I picked up on a lead because I've been aware of BCMS and Kingsbrook for some while. I went to one of your seminars, I don't know how many years ago. So I approached, and your colleague Chris did a very good sales job on me, and I signed on the dotted line. But at the end of that briefing process and the start of that research process, it became clear that it would go well beyond my knowledge and my guidance of where I thought the buyer might come from. And your team ended up with a list of something like 164 potential targets across a number of sectors. One or more I really wouldn't have given too much thought to. A number of players obviously in our sector, in education, broadly in engineering and so on. Number of familiar names, but an awful lot of unfamiliar names. The marketing process was launched, and over a period of weeks we had some interest, and as it happened, the ultimate acquirer was the first out of the blocks to express interest back last September. We probably ended up with a couple of dozen non-disclosure agreements being returned, and therefore information packs going out. And from that, I think we probably had about 10, 12 initial Zoom meetings with prospective interested parties. And that very quickly whittled down to sort of 4 or 5 more serious and secondary and even tertiary meetings. And then we came down to 3 that entered a sort of bidding phase. And that process is entirely the reason I appointed Kingsbrook, because that's basically what it said on the tin, that we would get down to a bidding situation, hopefully, if all went well. One of the players I knew and have known for quite some while. 2 others, one I was aware of in terms of just knowledge of their existence, but nothing about their business. And the actual acquirer I'd never heard of before. Critically, one is have as good an understanding as you can of what your minimum number that you're going to accept is. Taking advice, because you can set a minimum number that's completely unachievable. So you have to take advice as to what may or may not be achievable. Preparation is everything. I've been through the legal and due diligence process a couple of times before, so I knew what was coming. So I had done most of my due diligence preparation in the months leading up to an agreed offer. So I was, pretty much ready to go. I mean, on the due diligence, it was ridiculously detailed. And unfortunately, because the organisation that ultimately bought us, RSK Group, it's a very acquisitive group going through a number of acquisitions, and we were one of 12 with the M&A team at the time. So they had standard template due diligence processes. So, their initial legal due diligence was 77 pages. Then they had 2 lots of supplementary due diligence and the financial due diligence. And an awful lot of it just wasn't applicable to our business. To me, wasn't a lot of the questions weren't even appropriate. So it was very frustrating to have to wade through, and it takes an awful lot of time because you've got to read every word, you've got to understand precisely what the question is meaning and what it is asking for before you can answer it. So an awful lot of time taken needlessly. But I can understand their perspective because they can't tailor these documents for every eventuality, because they then run the risk of leaving out what might turn out to be a very crucial question. So I understand both sides of it. Undoubtedly. Some of the sales pitch takes some believing, the research, the number of companies, the bidding process, etc. We will find you a buyer, and okay, found prospective buyers, but are you going to get over the line? So that bit's a difficult sell, and he did a very good job. Your upfront fee takes some understanding and swallowing at that early stage, but looking back, I wouldn't have any qualms over what we got for that fee. Obviously, if it had all fallen down and you didn't get your success fee, then you would have probably lost money on the exercise. Luke, your son, obviously, has done a fantastic job. Very adept as the negotiator, and proved his worth more than once, and helped me, see the sunshine when I was looking at doom and gloom occasionally. So a bit of a mentor as well through the process. So yes, I would most certainly recommend Kingsbrook. Scott was the project manager, as the back office, if you like, doing all the infrastructure stuff, and setting up the initial project was excellent. His hand holding was superb.